Hi guys, Michael Wright here from Michael Wright Photography, and I'm here with Megan from TaylorMade Events.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about how to do a budget for your wedding. And to me, this is one of the most valuable videos that we could do for you because everyone out there has a budget, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to have the wedding of your dreams within that budget. So, as an event planner, I'm going to just pretend to be the bride. If I come to you and I say, we have a $25,000 budget, which is a national average that people spend on a wedding.
Yes.
Me and my fiance, we want to have a wedding somewhere in the Palm Beach area, maybe at a country club or something like that.
Okay.
What do we need to do from here? Will that work?
It can work. The first thing I want to ask you is how many people are you having at your wedding?
200.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's be a little
100
bit.
people.
Okay, there we go. That's more realistic. With 100 people at a country club, you can have your wedding there, but I would suggest to have more bang for your buck is to do a daytime wedding. That way you don't have to invest so much in alcohol, because if people are coming to a wedding in the evening, they're going to expect to drink. And if you don't have alcohol, it can create a little bit of static, and you want everyone to be happy. So if you have a brunch, then you can have alcohol, but just serve it as a signature drink with like a mimosa or something like that.
Now, to a lot of people out there, if they haven't been through a wedding or if they haven't helped their sister with a wedding or something like that, they're going to say, look, $25,000, that should be more than enough to have a wedding someplace. I mean, we only need to spend maybe about $10,000 on, food and beverage. $100 per person is what my friend or someone paid.
Yes, but they don't think about the other details that go along with that. Okay, for instance, say if it was $100 per person, you also have service tax, which is typically 22%, and then you have sales tax, which is 6%. So now you're looking at, more than $100 per person.
So that $100 per person just went up to maybe $130 per person.
Correct.
In which case, now instead of spending $10,000 like we thought, it went to $13,000.
Yes, and it's going to go up a little bit more than that as well, because you then have to pay for the rooms that you're going to be having your event in. So typically the ceremony, they'll kind of throw that in because it's only for 30 minutes or so. But the reception, that space can, range between $500 to maybe $1,000.
And in some cases, some venues that I've been to, they may charge a $1,000 ceremony fee where, they have one location that's the standard, but if you want the really nice location overlooking the 18th green or something like that, it may be another $1,000.
Yes.
Or some venues, it's mandatory that you have valet parking. That may be another fee.
Exactly.
There's a lot of hidden fees that all of a sudden, you were thinking, okay, our budget for food and beverage is $10,000, but then by the time the venue's done adding on things, it may be $15,000 or $17,000, even more.
And it can sometimes go up from that too, because sometimes the staff fee is inclusive in the per person count with 100. Sometimes it's not. So
it's very important that you go over your contract, and when you're meeting it with these different venues, to ask, okay, not really what's the out the door price, but what are the extra things that we'll have to consider in terms of coming to our total overall amount?
So you want to make sure you ask, what is the dollar per person? How much are you going to charge for service fee? It can be 22 and up. And are there any staff fees that are involved with that? Do we have to pay for, the room spaces as well? Make sure you ask those questions because they won't tell you. And without you asking until you go home and then you look through your pamphlet.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you get a bill.
Yes.
And at that point you've already given your deposit.
Exactly.
In which case you can't have your wedding someplace else.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's back up for a minute. So if you do have, let's say, a $25,000 budget, about how much of that should you expect to allot to food and beverage to the venue?
I would comfortably allot about 8 to 10 to the venue, but you want to make sure when you allot that, you want to make sure the venue, if you want to have it at a country club, includes linens, includes nice chairs, chargers, napkins, on all different colors. So sometimes they just, give you napkins and linens in black, white, and ivory, but there's other country clubs that do offer in different colors as well. That way you don't have to incur another cost by going to a rental company. Sometimes they do throw in the nicer chair, which is a safari chair. you have to ask these questions. So those are the things that if you want it to go to 10, make sure it includes that. If it doesn't include that, then I would say 8 to be comfortable.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because maybe, you want to have certain colors that go along with, the colors from your college, or maybe you're in a sorority or a fraternity and you want to have those colors in terms of the linens and the napkins, and then you're stuck with black and white unless you spend an extra couple $1,000s.
Yes.
So if, of a $25,000 budget, if $10,000 is allotted to the food and beverage, how would you kind of divvy up the rest of it? So, what are the vendors, and on average, what do you expect to spend?
I would, the next I would go to is your photographer. So I would allot like 25 on the low end for your photography. And then the next would be, your decor. You want to go with the centerpiece that doesn't have to be over the top, but can make a statement. And you can get centerpieces for about, $50 a centerpiece and up. Also with that budget, it might be important for them to do a few things on their own. Like they can purchase little votives that can go on their centerpiece. That way they don't have to rent that from the florist, because you can go to Michael's and get that for a significantly less amount than renting it from your florist.
Yeah, and that's one of the perks of having a planner, is that they can point out little things like that you can do to save money, to where, maybe you can get a little bit better photographer. Maybe you can get a little bit better DJ. Maybe you can, have some, gifts that you give out to your bridesmaids instead, because there's a little bit of extra money there, whether you want to do, custom robes or shirts or something like that.
Yes. So you're at, 10 for your venue, your food, and your chairs and your linens. Then you're at 2,500 for your photography. Then we can allot another 2,000 for floral and decor. And another cost savings with the floral and decor, the arrangements that you use can be used for your ceremony, and it can also be used for your reception. So you can just have the vases all on the tables for your reception, and then the arrangements can be placed on pillars for your ceremony. You take those arrangements and place them on top of the vases that are already on your tables for your reception. Your bouquets can be used in different ways as well. Your bridal bouquet can be used to decorate your sweetheart table, and the bridesmaids' bouquets can be used to decorate the cake table. We can place the bouquets around the cake table, and the rest can go along the sides of the bridal bouquet and sweetheart table. So you just want to make sure you use all of your $2,000 worth.
Correct. Well, that's the thing. It's all about getting the most bang for your buck, because again, if you, I hate to say, throw all your money at the venue, but if you give $15,000 of your $25,000 budget to the venue, then you're going to have to cut back in some other areas.
Yes.
And I'm a little bit biased because I'm a photographer, but I feel like if you can get a good photographer, he or she can take an average, I don't want to say average venue, but take a venue that's not the Ritz-Carlton and make it look really nice, versus
Correct.
if you have your event at the Ritz-Carlton and then you get a $500 photographer, it's going to look like it's shot on an iPhone.
Correct.
And the thing is, it's just a matter of making sure that you can have good quality vendors in terms of top to bottom, photographer, DJ, florist,
yes.
what have you.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the DJ. What would you typically expect to allot for a DJ that may not only just do the reception, but ceremony music as well?
Well, typically a DJ is about $1,000.
Okay, and again, that's one of these things where that's a starting point for ceremony and reception, but you may end up going higher than that if they're going to do up lighting, or if they're going to have DJ and MC, or or if you're having a different type of event like a quince or bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, there may be some dancers involved, something like that. So maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on what type of event you're having.
Okay.
And then, so at this point, we got the venue, we got the photographer, we got the florals, we got the DJ. We're done, right?
No, you need a wedding planner.
Well, no.
So I would suggest with this type of budget that you look for a day of planner. That way you can make sure that you're stress free the day of, and everything will be taken care of. You don't need a full wedding planner for this type of budget. You know, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket like you suggested. So I would say $1,000 on the low end. A day of would be anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500, depending on what you need.
Okay.
So,
I'm looking at the list here, but you know what? I think the bride's going to need a dress too. So depending on what the budget for that is, on average, would you say about $2,000, $3,000? It can go.
You can get dresses for a little bit cheaper than $2,000 or $3,000. It doesn't have to be super elaborate. It will probably be like around 5, maybe 6. Now, if you wanted something that's a little bit more elaborate, you can always rent a dress. A lot of brides are renting dresses. I've done a couple weddings where they've rented dresses because they weren't going to use them afterwards.
Yeah, and quite honestly, my wife, after we got married, she sent her dress out to be cleaned. It came back to us in a cardboard box, and it's in the bottom of her closet. We hadn't seen it since.
Yeah.
I keep telling her we should donate it or do something with it. She said, one day if we have a daughter, she's gonna wear it. I was like, no one's gonna want to wear their mom's dress. And then we had a son, and then she's like, well, what if my son's wife? And I said, no, nobody's gonna do that. But anyway, so
let's just comfortably say $700 for a dress.
Okay. $700 dress. And then, of course, the groom, he's also going to need a tuxedo. Typically, they'll do a rental, which may be between $100 to $200.
Yeah, we'll say $200 to be safe. And that comes with your suit, your pocket square, your tie, your vest, socks, shoes, all that. So.
Yeah. And in addition to that, the bride's going to need to have hair and a makeup artist.
Correct.
On the day of the wedding. In ballpark, typically, what does that generally run?
Well, the bride's makeup is usually anywhere between about $100 and up, $100 to $200. If you're not going to have airbrush makeup, then it's going to stay towards the $100 range. And with this budget, I don't suggest you paying for your bridal party's hair and makeup. You just get the pricing from the makeup artist, and you just let the bridal party know. These are the prices. If you want to get your makeup done here, this is what it's going to cost.
Okay. And then if I want to have a limo come pick us up from either the home that we're getting ready at or at the house, typically, what does a limo usually run?
A limo is usually about $400, and it's for a 4-hour minimum. So I try to let my couples know to use all of your 4 hours. Don't let that limo sit longer than 30 minutes. Don't. Yeah. So take pictures in the limo, around the limo, use it to pick everyone up. If you're going to have your reception at a different space, then you want to make sure that you use the limo for that as well. Okay.
And what are some other areas that people spend money? Because so far we have the venue, photographer, DJ, floral, the planner, the dress, tuxedo, makeup artist, limo driver.
We need invitations and save the dates. Now, for a budget this size, I suggest doing save the dates from a website like Wedding Paper Divas, using the images from your photographer, from your engagement shoot, or Zazzle. They come out just as nice. If the quality is good, then the images on your save the date would be nice. The other thing, and that can be like $100.
Okay.
And as far as the invitations, you can get them from a site like that as well. Or you could go to Michael's and have it printed out. Or you can just research. There are quite a few companies that do custom invitations at a really good, reasonable rate. So I would say your invitations would probably be around like the $200, because you not only do you need the invitation, the outer envelope, the inner envelope, the response card, and the stamps.
So right now we're right at about $20,000. That leaves us about $5,000 left over. In this case, would it be a thing of we would use that money to either, maybe look at getting either a more expensive DJ, more expensive photographer, or is it a thing of you just want to have some reserves in case there's some extra things that you find out that you want to do, whether it's, like I mentioned, doing, custom robes for all the bridesmaids, or maybe splurging and doing something?
Well, usually the couples will come to me saying, I want this type of wedding, but my budget is 25,000. So I try to do the bare and bones, what's necessary, and all of the fluff I'll put on a wish list. So then we'll look at the wish list and see what we can add from that wish list to it.
Okay.
So, if at that moment they wanted pipe and drape and we couldn't afford it when we were trying to do the bare and bones, we can throw in the pipe and drape. We can add the uplighting to the DJ package. I think that would be money well spent because your images will look a lot nicer for the reception.
Absolutely, and that's the big thing. I mean, it's easy to say, we've got a $25,000 budget. We're going to go and have our wedding at this really nice venue that we absolutely love. But again, with what we talked about so far, you couldn't just do 17,000 of that 25,000 at whatever venue. I mean, it's much better to have a nice venue that maybe you go in and pipe and drape and, spend a little more money on decor or uplighting and then transform that room into something really nice versus going to a venue that's already really nice and saying, well, we don't have to decorate it because it's nice. Well, you don't, but all your money is going into it.
Exactly.
And you may not be able to get, the dress that you want or the DJ you want or the photographer that you want.
Yeah. And then out of that 5,000, there's other small things that you want to also purchase, like your champagne flutes, your cake cutting set, garters, gifts for your bridal party. You don't have to splurge for your gifts for your bridal party. Etsy is a great site where you can purchase very affordable things for your bridal party, for the groomsmen and the bridesmaids, your parents' gifts as well. But out of that, it will probably be like another, $500 to $600 for those items.
Yeah, and then if you did want to, have some favors or have a signature drink or have something else after that, you could add it in. Although, I'll be honest with you, I've done a lot of weddings where people have had favors to give out to the guests, and at the end of the night, there's like a box full of these favors going home with someone. I've got in my own kitchen, one of my good friends got married, and I've got 6 glasses that has his name, his wife's name, and the date they got married on, because at the end of the night, people didn't realize they were supposed to take them, or people just didn't take them, and we had all these leftover favors that just went unused.
Exactly. If you're gonna do a favor, I would suggest maybe a small little candy buffet, and it can be done tastefully, where it fits within the theme of your wedding. Or if you do have a little bit left over after you threw in the pipe and drape and the uplighting, get a photo booth. That way they have that slip that comes out, and then they have the date and your name on it, and that can be used as their favor.
Yeah, and typically for a photo booth, a lot of times, on average, the average price in our area is about $1,000.
Yes.
And then one other thing that we didn't talk about was the wedding cake.
Well, the cake, if you're getting married at a country club, it's typically included. If you were not getting married at a country club, then that would be something that would be addition to.
Okay, and so if we were getting married at a venue where we have to bring in the cake from outside, is it typically 500? Is it typically 1,000, 2,000?
Well, with this budget, what I would do is I would get a cake where most of it is foam and there's a sheet cake in the back. Okay. That would save a lot. Where you just have the one piece where the bride and groom cuts for their cake cutting ceremony, and then we would take that in the back, and then they have the sheet cake in the back, and then it's the same selection of cake and flavor, but we're just passing out the sheet cake.
The old switcheroo.
Yes, no one knows.
Well, I mean, that's great, because then you can have, a 5-layer cake, and it's going to look great in the pictures, and like you said, we get the pictures of you cutting it and feeding it to each other, and then the cake disappears, and all of a sudden the plated cake comes out. And really, I would say it's going to taste better, but it's going to be a much more efficient.
Correct.
And much more easier to do than, having to cut up this 5-layer cake.
Yes. And from my experience, everyone doesn't eat cake. So this will probably be the best option for you. Even if you did have it in the budget to afford a cake where you can have 4 or 5 tiers, just get it where if you're having 100 people, it's enough to feed 80 people. That way you're not wasting a whole bunch of cake. Yeah,
because that's one thing. As a photographer, we're there to the end of the night a lot of times, or maybe through, an hour before the end of the reception. And you walk around the tables taking pictures of people, and there's so many pieces of uneaten cake that just gets thrown out at the end of the night, along with the flowers, along with, you may not throw out the favors, but there's someone going home with, a whole box full of,
Yes.
glasses or cutting boards or all these different things that people spend money on, and it's not your wedding and not really our place to say, but it's like, well, if you hadn't done that, then maybe you could have done something else that was on your wish list.
Yes, and that is why it's important to have a planner to help you with that.
Exactly. I mean, these are things. And I'll be honest with you. My wife is, self-described the world's cheapest person. And after our wedding, she said, I wish I would have got a planner. I wish I would have spent money on it because it would have saved me so much headache. It would have saved me so much trouble. It would have been a lot easier to plan along the way versus relying on a friend or a family member that, may have had a wedding of their own in the past, but it's a lot different between that versus someone that's doing multiple weddings every year.
Yes. And you just brought something to my attention I want to mention. Having a friend or a family member. What you have to understand is they are there to enjoy themselves. So having them, do everything that a wedding planner would do is a lot of stress on them, and they have to get ready as well. So I think it's only fair to have your maid of honor and your bridesmaids take care of you and kind of be your personal assistant that day, and leave the planning to the planners.
Yeah. I mean, just some of the things that we talked about just now would go a long way to saving you money that the average person may not think about in terms of trying to save money or when it comes to planning a wedding.
Yes.
So again, I'll be honest with you, $25,000 is a lot of money, and on just looking at it overall, you may say, look, we can have an awesome wedding for that. We should be able to do anything we want, but the reality is, you have to be smart about how you allocate the money, and you have to think about everything before you start making deposits here and there.
Yes, very true.
Yes, especially with the venue. I meet with a fair number of people that come in and they say, we'd love to hire you, we love your work, but just price range wise, you're a little bit higher than what we can afford because we spent, 3/4 of our budget at the venue or whatnot. And it kills me because, I see that we would be a great fit and I would love to work with them. They would love to work with me, but it's just something that, may not fit into their budget because they didn't take the time to plan for it ahead of time. So that's part of the reason why I really wanted to do this video. I really want to thank you for coming in and doing this because to me, this is something super valuable for the viewers out there, or anyone that's planning a wedding or has a friend that is planning their wedding. Please forward this video to them. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below or shoot me an email. Michael Wright Photography. This is Megan.
With TaylorMade Events.
You should be able to see the email at the end of this video or the website. If you have any questions, let us know. And if there's anything we missed, let us know. We'll add it in the next one.
Yes.
Thank you and take care.
Bye.